Hi all, welcome to the 18th edition of FAYA Port 80, and this is the seventh online session that we are conducting. So we have Amrit Sanjeev. He's the staff developer advocate at Google, and he'll be helping us understand how to optimize the ads for improved subscription revenues. So let's welcome Amrit.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Deepu.
Yeah, hi Amrit. So to just to give a brief about Amrut, like Amrut is here for the second edition. Previously, I think on April he did a session here. He was introducing what is new in Android 11. So Amrut is the staff developer advocate at Google, and he leads the developer advocacy initiatives in India. And he has over 15 years of industry experience and has worked in different areas like OS development, large scale backend systems design, software architecture, and mobile research. Prior to Google, he worked with companies like INAP, IBM, Intuit, and Philips. And he's the first person from the India to be accepted as the Google developer expert for Android and as an Intel innovator. And he also has a biggest Android developer community in India called Blur Droid, right? What is
BLR Droid. It's Bangalore Droid. We cut it short to BLR.
Droid? Okay. Okay, Bangalore Droid. Okay, and it is an honor to have Amrit again for Fireport 18. Welcome up. Yeah.
Thanks, Deepu. Lovely introduction. I hope the presentation lives up to it. So can I go straight into the presentation now?
Yes. You can.
How's it like?
Yeah, you can go to the presentation, and I will add the others in as the time comes.
Okay, perfect. So is my presentation now on screen? Yeah, hopefully the presentation is now. You guys can see the presentation. So basically, today what I want to kind of talk about is subscription is something that a lot of people don't explore a lot in India because they feel one-time payment is more relevant here. It was to a good extent, and it still is a decently popular thing. But subscription is one of those ways of payment or collecting revenue from users that allow you to kind of continue development. With a one-time fee, the issue with most apps is that they're not able to sustain it when there's a revenue dip or when there are user acquisition, the user acquisition kind of dries up. So in this case, there is a good amount of, with subscriptions, you are able to kind of get around those problems. So like Deepu mentioned, I think this is more or less irrelevant. I work at Google as a developer advocate in the partner DevRel team, managing large partnerships and early access programs for India. And quickly moving on to the agenda, I just want to touch upon the basics of play billing. It's only to ensure that everybody's on the same page, not too much about it. Then we'll talk about subscriptions versus one-time payments, and then how some of the tools that are available can be used, or introducing a lot of the tools that are already there. One of the observations that I've seen when I talk to a lot of the developers is that they do use the subscription channel sometimes, but they're not taking advantage of a lot of the tools that play billing as an engine provides you. Play billing is not just the ability for somebody to pay to you. There are already there's also a set of tools that come along with it, and I'll talk about some of those things today, just to give you an understanding of where you need to use them and how you might be able to kind of improve your retention, improve conversions and things like that, to ensure users are able to, or as a business, you're able to sustain your revenue pipeline. At the same time, you're keeping your users delighted. So let's start with the first section, play billing. So if you look at the play billing library, there are three types of billing products that we have, types of SKUs that you can actually create. One is a one-time product. It's where the user pays only one time at the start, and that's it. It could be a consumable. There's two subclasses of it. It could be a consumable or a non-consumable product. By consumable, let me explain that with an example. Say you're playing a game and you want to buy say 100 coins, and that is like 50 rupees. So you pay a one-time fee of 50 rupees for a consumable product, which is 100 coins. As you consume the product, you can finally say that when the count of your coins becomes zero as the player uses it, you can say that the particular subscription has or particular product has been consumed. By what that means is once it is marked as consumed, it means that the user does not have entitlement towards whatever additional features that that particular product was giving. It is more like the product is cancelled. Now, a non-consumable is like a premium subscription, a one-time payment for premium subscription. This is one of the most common ways people do it, where you pay a one-time fee and you get lifelong access to the premium features in the app. That is a non-consumable type of one-time payment. Then there is rewarded products. This usually, if gamers might have seen this plenty of times, it's where you watch an ad and you get an entitlement. By entitlement, what I mean is your ability to access premium features or a particular feature within the app, which otherwise is locked for normal users who don't pay. Here, the rewarded ad is a model, or rewarded products is basically a model of watching an ad, which basically generates revenue, and using that, or rather, when you watch an ad, you are actually going to give the entitlement. A lot of games provide this, like you watch three ads, and you get unlocked for one day. So you actually are creating a loop in which people come back and then do watch ads again for you, so that they get the benefit again. So that's one model of doing it. You can also give a rewarded product as a full-time access, which is could be like you watch 5 ads and you get a full or say you watch a video ad, for instance, and you get a premium subscription for free from then on. So that is also possible. Again, in both these products, you as a developer is responsible for managing the life cycle, in terms of if you have 100 coins in the first case that I talked about, getting the 100 coins to come down to something like, if you have 100 coins and you are expected to manage the number of coins and usage of it. The only event for which you can trigger is when the coin becomes zero, you can mark it as consumed. That, again, the developer is responsible for managing the count, and finally helping the Play system to understand that the product has been consumed. So all those API calls and lifecycle is supposed to be managed by you. In a rewarded product also, you are expected to manage that lifecycle, where the rewarded product can only tell you that, hey, the person has done what you've asked to, which is watch the ad, and now you need to react to it. It could be by unlocking it for one day, or it could be by unlocking it forever, a certain feature. So you can actually, as a developer, you have a lot of flexibility on how you want to monetize your users. Different use cases and different products are perfect for different situations. So at any point of time, don't consider one of them to be the best way to take it further. And the last one is subscriptions. In subscriptions, you have recurring payments, and which will be renewed until the user cancels it. So you can actually set your time frame for how long your subscription has to be there, and then the whole idea is that at the end of the subscription, it get automatically renewed as long as the payment instrument that the user has used is allowing it to be. So if the card hasn't expired, you'll get the person will automatically get charged again. So this is recurring form of payment, and that is actually better suited for businesses to continuously gain revenue. So these are 3 types of things that are there in the billing library. Now there is a version 3 library that has launched earlier this year, and that has 3 major changes. One is the new ways of payment is being supported, like places like Indonesia and all that. You can actually go to a physical store, pay in cash, and get off, that is basically off device payment, and get a feature for a particular app, or get play points and things like that. So you are supporting a different type of payment in certain regions. In India, we haven't actually launched that yet, or we haven't had support for that yet. Then subscription has promotion capabilities right now. So you can actually create promo codes for subscriptions, and that's actually again supported by billing 3. Purchase attribution for games, which was really something that a lot of developers asked for, and we have added that. And there is again standard reliability improvement and security improvement, stability improvement, and things like that, which comes with every iteration of the library. So they are also there. Some of the important things that you want to kind of keep in mind is when it looks at billing library and your migration to billing library version 3, you have to migrate it by August next year. all the new apps are expected to use that only. Otherwise, your billing will not get supported. And for existing apps, you have to migrate it by November. I know there's a year from now that we are talking about, but billing is one area where you don't want to keep it to the last minute. Where I know, for instance, when we did to billing version 2, there was a method called as acknowledging your payments. So if you don't acknowledge your payments, what happens is uh, the purchase that somebody made gets automatically cancelled if you don't acknowledge with at the end of 72 hours. And because this feature was not, people did not really read the feature or implement it correctly, what happened, a lot of apps did not understand that you have to acknowledge. We had given it clearly in the documentation, but people just updated the version and then push it out, and started seeing that a lot of their subscriptions are getting refunded automatically. And users started complaining also that, hey, I paid for this and I am not getting the service anymore, without realizing that they got refunded. So a lot of confusion happened around that time. So please do understand, when you're migrating billing libraries, please understand the changes, ensure that they don't have any changes in the workflows that you implemented, and also take a lot of testing behind it. So it's best to stagger this change and slowly roll it out, and with a very safe way of stage rolling it out, to ensure that the stability as well as your workflows are all working as expected. Now, moving on, there is this: how do you check for a valid purchase? This is one common question a lot of people have, where there's duplicate order IDs and there is what ID should I use to check? So the standard way that we recommend for you to check for a payment or a purchase being done, because there's fraud also in here. So you got to understand that when you're doing large amounts of payments or large number of transactions, there's also a lot of frauds that will come. So you really need to kind of follow something close to what I'm saying here, or exactly this, to ensure that you minimize the risk of actually going into a fraud scenario and things like that. So one is send the purchase token to your backend. That will be the first step. So when the purchase token is generated, so when the user pays on the device, creates a purchase order ID, and then or creates an order purchase order, and then that returns a purchase token. Now the purchase token, you maintain a copy on your backend. Then check if the purchase token is something that is already being created earlier. So one of the ways of fraud that people do is they kind of grab hold of a purchase token which was done earlier, and they send a valid purchase token to the server. When the purchase token looks valid, the user would, or the app would automatically enable it and send it, and unlock the feature. Here, you really need to check on the backend whether it's an existing token or not. Verify with the Google Play end whether the purchase is legitimate. Has a purchase really happened, or is the device just sending you a fraudulent purchase token right from there without running the purchase token? So there is a Google API for that, the billing server-side API, which you can use to verify your purchase. And if the purchase is legitimate, that is when you should grant access to your premium segment. Otherwise, what happens if you do everything on the device? There's a lot of places where you will end up having fraud being done, people using different techniques in which they can actually work around the system and break your security. Again, if a subscription, last thing, if it's a subscription and if it's getting renewed and things like that, there is something called a linked purchase token. So if there's a linked purchase token set, then remove the linked purchase token from your database so that nobody uses that linked purchase token to fraud you again, because all of the other conditions will satisfy with the linked purchase token, because it is a valid purchase. It will be a valid token. So your backend will approve it, your Google Pay end will approve it, and then you will actually give the entitlement to a person who is not supposed to get it. So if it is already there, don't fall for the trap and remove that linked purchase token for subscription. So this is a standard set of rules that you want to implement when you're implementing or when you're validating a purchase. So every time somebody is paying for your app or your service through the Google Play backend or Google Play billing, you should use this sort of a workflow to ensure that the frauds are minimized and you are only giving entitlement to the most legitimate users. Again, don't use order ID. That's another common mistake we see for actually checking duplicate purchases. Order IDs are not always generated. For example, if you're using a promo code, order IDs are not generated for promo codes. So you cannot actually dedupe different purchases based on order IDs. So that is not unique, and it should not be used for verifying duplicate purchases. Now there is another API called as void purchase API. So a void purchase is something of a purchase that is actually cancelled, charged back, or refunded. So it could be that a user has raised a complaint and asked you to refund the amount, and you've refunded it. Users in Google Play also have a certain amount of time in which they can request Google Play to refund their money. Now, when this happens, right, you really need to do some of this action, either clawback or your unused items. By that, what I mean is, say you've given a user 100 coins for purchase of a particular. The user has paid you one time of, say, 100 rupees, got like a 500 coins from you for your game, and then the user went and cancelled your or asked for a refund. Now you refund it, and if you go and refund the amount, the token is invalid, but your entitlement that you given, which is the 500 coins, is still there with the user. So you want to kind of ensure that you use the void purchase API to initiate a corrective action for that user. You can claw back unused items. You can use multiple strikes policy, which is basically where if a person is using this methodology to fool you too many times or fool the system, try to work around the system, you can bar him temporarily or permanently disable purchases for that user. And you could do things like that, or disallow access to the app itself. So one of those cases, you can actually jump in and get your user to get your app to react to that, and use the void purchase API to kind of check before taking the corrective action. There is a certain limit to or a quota allowed for this API. So when you're deciding the frequency, it shouldn't be that every purchase or every 5 minutes you go check for voided purchases. You cannot do that often. So you really want to kind of measure the frequency or manage the frequency of this call, which is more like a batch process, the background process. You want to ensure that within the API limit. Otherwise, what happens if you're over the API for the day? What will happen is then you are opening up a window where you cannot check for void purchases till the next day, which means that window from that point onwards to the end of the day is somewhere where people can actually manipulate the system. So you want to kind of spread it throughout the day or spread it evenly across a period of time, so that you regularly check at a regular interval. At the same time, you leave it you give some time gap in between, so that the quota is also not expired. So this is another thing. A lot of developers don't use it. You give a refund, but you continue to give the service also. So a lot of people can fool you by just asking for the service, paying for it, and then immediately refunding back once they got the service. So that's something that you want to kind of work around or claw back your entitlements. Now let's talk about subscription. So I talked about two APIs earlier, which you might want to kind of check on. One is how you want to validate your purchase, then how you want to claw back a purchase if you're refunding or user is canceling the order. Now, when you're talking about subscriptions are becoming very popular among developers. A lot of people are now moving towards subscription because they see that this is a much better business model, or a lot of people there's a lot of people who are having this sort of a continuous revenue from this, which means the development can be sustained and services and all that can be still continued on. If you have like 10,000 users, or you've spent a certain amount of time a certain amount of money acquiring users, and you just use that for a one-time payment, all that happens is that you will end up seeing that you have only got that one-time amount from them. After that, you keep servicing them for a long period of time. And if you don't keep regular updates and you don't keep updating to the latest features or latest to work on the latest OSs, users will get upset and start negatively rating your app. So it becomes a catch-22 situation where you need continuous investment to at least keep the existing features working as it is, to avoid users from having bad experiences with your app. But you can see that a user who's purchased on the day one of launch of your app is continuing to use it 3 years from now, which sometimes doesn't make business sense. So more people are moving towards subscription services. The other thing about subscription service that a lot of people mention is that in India it doesn't work very well. That is kind of changing. It's kind of true where earlier it was very difficult to get people to subscribe. Now with OTT platforms and more places where people are actually subscribing to content and things like that, they've gotten used to this. Users are now getting used to the fact that they pay for a service which is getting charged regularly, and that is now bringing around this whole uh, what I say, that people are opening up to subscription services. So if you are trying out a subscription, it's also a great model for revenue. But a couple of things, again, you wanna, if you're looking at it only as an India app, or if you're looking at it like a global app, you need to look at a couple of things. One is the modes of payment supported. Say, for example, a majority of the users are going to use UPI in India, for example. UPI does not support recurring payments. So that cannot be used for subscription. So if if you are actually looking at if you're actually looking at your demography, understand how they're going to pay, what payment models are supported in a certain region. Say, for example, you only enable a certain type of payment modality in a certain region, then it becomes a little tricky to kind of work with that and get revenue from there. Then there is also a prevalence of cash transactions. How much people are using cash transactions for their thing. Interestingly, for India, for example, credit card has remained stagnant, like about 2 or 3% of users. It remains stagnant for that sort of a number and hasn't kept rising up for regular users. And that's why when UPI came in, a lot of people started actually purchasing more. So there is a growing trend of people using UPI to pay and preferring that over credit cards. And then it also opened up a segment of users who earlier did not have credit cards, and they are now able to use UPI and get to pay for these services and premium features. And the last is digitization level. A lot of people might not be comfortable with digital payments, so you also need to understand how comfortable they are with recurring payments, and understanding that this gets charged every 6 months or every at a certain period of time that is set. So communicating that information, all that are preferences that you want to take when you keep these when you're taking these regional preferences. Your business model based on subscriptions become a lot better. I think there is a question that I saw. I'll just take it quickly. uh, this is like, okay, the question is that if order ID is not unique, then the which one can be used as a unique ID? The purchase token can be used as a unique value. That's why I said order ID does not get generated for all of it. Order ID does not get generated if a person is using promo code. So there's no order ID there itself. So you can't really use that to duplicate users. A lot of systems actually work this without understanding that nuance. If you have a lot of transactions, like if your app is like extremely popular, then you start running into problems with this.
Okay. And Niju, like there is one more question that you have, right?
Yeah.
Regarding the payment gateway, yeah.
Uh, Hi, Amrit.
Yeah, hi.
So my question is that if I am having an existing application,
Mhm.
so I am planning to change. If I already have a payment gateway, I already running a subscription channel or something. So
Mhm.
if I am planning to change the payment gateway to Play services or Play subscription,
Mhm.
so is it possible? What are the steps to be followed to maintain the changes, or how we can implement these changes?
So just want to understand that use case. Just correct me if I'm wrong here. You
Sure.
basically are using one payment model right now, which is say
Yes.
another third-party provider for it. You want to migrate over to Google Play,
Yes, I need to
uh,
migrate.
and uh, say when you start using Google Play, you will actually are you trying to migrate the tokens, or what is it going to be like? What is the intent here?
My intent is to change the payment system to Play subscription. So, what are the yeah, advantages over that? Because already I am having a payment gateway for implementing this.
Yeah. So well, like the number one difference that I would sell is the number of tools that you have and the kind of features and services that you have around it, which are some of the things that I'm going to talk about in future in coming slides. Those are like your number one advantage. The second one is the fact that there are also some policies around this that you need to work with. So that is also another thing that you have to take care of. If your existing service provider is actually if it works for you right now, yes, you can continue to use that. But for digital content and things like that, there are policies which would require you to use Play Library or rather Google Play Library. But I think for your question, I would very clearly say that the number of features that come along with Google Play, which allow you to kind of get users back, win back users, give features before they exit your subscription, things like that, which I'll talk about in the future slides. I mean, in a few slides from now, they are going to be explained. I think that is the best advantage that you have, other than just getting a payment gateway here. Because a payment gateway can be replaced by anything. That, I mean, like one over the other does not make too much of a difference for a developer as such once you've integrated it. But the features that come along in terms of analytics, in terms of your additional data of how your users are churning, in terms of integration with other services, that is where you really get advantage from. So let me go through a few more slides, and I think it will become a little more clearer there.
Okay.
I mean, you can continue.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon churn right now. So customer churn is basically a percentage of customers that have stopped using a product or service in a time frame, like in a month or every 30 days. That sort of a number. It's one of the most important metrics that you've got to keep tracking on, and numbers really show how your user retention is working. It's like the real hard truth for retention. Now, why this is really important, I just really want you to kind of look at this graph for a second. That first line, the light green line going up, is 1% churn. So if your application has 1% churn, there's a continuous growth. You're acquiring customers over a period of time, and that does not fade off. You continue to grow your user base. But imagine when that 1% churn is now going to become 2.5% churn. You'll see that by about 60 months, around 60 months time frame. That's basically the other axis. You will start tapering your users, because this is more like percentage of users, right? So if you have like 2.5% of users going out from your system every now and then the user base starts kind of flattening out, which means your revenue numbers, all that becomes sort of like the value of the whole service becomes less. And if you have something like say a 5% churn, that whole flattening, that the way at which users are acquired at the same time, say look at the 40-month timeline. At 40 months, the number of users that you have when you have 1% churn is a lot more than when you have a smaller number, and a lot more than when you are having like a 2.5% or 5% churn. And this continues, and the trend continues like that, and the graph starts flattening out very quickly. So controlling the retention becomes super important, because it's very expensive for your business. It basically is like stifling the growth of your business completely, because it's the reason why this happens, because it's compounded. The effect is kind of compounded over time. So you start becoming big, you start incurring bigger and bigger losses as you try to grow your user base. And this basically also adds to your customer acquisition costs. So the acquiring a churned user back is much more expensive than getting the user in the first place. So you got X number of users, and majority, if a good number of them leave the system after some time, then getting them back again or getting new users is also customer acquisition cost, right? So it actually increases your customer acquisition cost, and then thereby reducing your revenue. So churn is really important, and that's where we want to kind of talk about two types of churn with subscription. One is voluntary churn, and the second one is involuntary churn. Voluntary churn is when a user basically comes to a subscription product and says, I don't want to subscribe to this anymore. An example is, say you have an OTT platform, or you have a streaming service plan that you're subscribing to every month. So you pay an X amount of rupees as a monthly fee, and at the end of the month, or at one of these days, you come in and say, I don't want to pay for this anymore. From next month onwards, cancel my subscription. That is a voluntary churn. An involuntary churn is when the next month the system tries to automatically renew a subscription, but your credit card is declining, or your credit card has actually expired, or whatever payment model that you have given for automatically renewing your payment is actually not working, that is a involuntary churn. So keep these two in mind. We'll talk about how this affects you in different ways. Now, like I said, voluntary churn, user is actually going to the Play Store and canceling a subscription. This could mean a few things. One is that the user is not happy with your service anymore. So they came in, they saw a good service, they bought it. They used it for a few days, they don't like it anymore. They're canceling it. That could happen. Does not need the service anymore. Yeah, I subscribe to something that I would use for 2 months, and then realize that I don't want to use. I don't have the need to continue to use it, so I'm canceling it. That could happen. You could also see that the user is finding the recurring cost to be more expensive. This could also be another reason. The reason I'm calling out these three major ones is because you really want to kind of understand what led to the user to kind of cancel the subscription, because that is the only way you're going to be able to kind of bring the user back by basically attacking that problem. Now, even if the user cancels subscription, the subscription will continue to give access, or the subscription is valid till the end of the subscription period. For example, you are paying for a monthly subscription to, say, one of the OTT platforms. So you are charged on day one, which is say 2nd of every month, and then to the next 2nd of the next month you have the access. The user comes on 5th of the month and then cancels a subscription. The user will continue to have access to the content, and the subscription is valid till the 2nd, because he or she has already paid for it for till the next month 2nd. So canceling a subscription doesn't mean that access to the content or access to the feature gets cancelled. It only gets cancelled when the subscription period ends. So you got to realize that that is a time frame in which you can kind of get the user back. Try to get the user back. Now, there are two statuses, like I mentioned here. Subscription is cancelled, which is basically where he has the entitlement, and then there's subscription expired. So from 5th to the 2nd of next month, 5th of this month to the 2nd of next month, that is subscription cancel status. After the 2nd of next month, when the payment cannot go through again, or the user has cancelled, and on that 2nd is when the subscription goes to the expired status. From an expired status, that means from then on the user does not have access to those features or content. That's how it is. Now, a subscription, one of the things to remember, subscription can be started from a cancel state. You can only resubscribe after that. When I say started, it can be restarted from it. So even though the person has cancelled it on 5th, he can come back, change his mind, the person can come back, change his or her mind, and come back and say, oh, on 10th, let me continue the subscription, or let me restart the subscription, which means on the 2nd of next month, the subscription will again charge one more month of payment, and then I give access to one more month. So you can restart it at the end of this thing. When it comes to involuntary thing, it's a little more aggressive. When an involuntary payment fails, that is at the end of the period of subscription, right? Now, that is when Google usually automatically starts retrying the payment for a short period, which is usually 24 hours. And Google Play will also notify your user saying that, hey, your payment has failed. You're going to lose access to this particular entitlement. And if it continues, the user subscription is cancelled and the user is notified. The user can come back and resubscribe if they want at the current price, or they can ignore it. But this is the situation where the user is cancelled or subscription is cancelled because the payment did not go through is a bad situation, primarily from the fact that you're also losing the user. That user would have continued to pay for many months to come, but when you have actually lost the user, you'll go through the whole user acquisition model all over again, right? So then the cost is higher to get the user back, all that. So it's best to kind of fix the problem here. There are two features that I want to kind of talk about, which is extending this. One is account hold and the other one is grace period. Now, without these two either or enabled, the subscription gets cancelled after a few retries by Google Play to kind of recharge the user. It could be that the reason why we are retrying is because it could be that the credit card that they gave in, the bank was having an outage. So the first time it did not attempt. So we tried a few times But if it does not happen in the next 24 hours, it's actually cancelled, unless and until account holder grace period is there. Let me talk about these two features going further. I'll talk about them in the coming slide. Now, you need to understand the user flow here. Now, one of the tools that you can use to understand how the user is moving through a life cycle of a premium access or a SKU is by using real-time developer notification. This is actually a service that Google Play has, which notifies a developer when the state of a subscription changes. That when the state is on hold or it's restarted, paused, renewed, cancelled, expired, all these are different states that the user might go through, right, with a particular subscription. Now, real-time developer notification will actually tell the developer the changes of the state. It does not. It is not where you actually go and probe for a state. It's basically it telling you that, hey, this user is actually going to expire, or this user has canceled the subscription, which means that you can actually understand. And this is a backend thing, okay? Your backend can understand this change of state and then react to that state of change. It could be through giving the user a push notification. It could be where your CRM guy calls the person and tells it, or it could be an in-app message, or a new offering the user say giving the user a coupon or an offer to entice the user back into resubscribing or continuing the subscription with you. Now, developer can use this information to understand who is churned and give timely communication so that things can actually work. So the communication, this system only tells you the change of state. How you react to it and what is the modality that you use depends on your business and what you have as a reactive model. Some people use a completely programmatic model for this. When a real-time developer notification event comes in, it automatically triggers a cloud function which may send a push notification or change a remote config on the device, show an in-app message. So there is multiple things that people do. Some of them have people calling them out for services like, say, I've seen a gym service recently where they would literally phone the user and say that, hey, something is wrong with your payment thing. I think you need to update your credit card so that you still continue to get the service. So things like that. And when you want to implement it, it's pretty straightforward, not too complicated but it requires a backend for sure. The way it is done is you set up your cloud PubSub service, which is a service on Google Cloud. And once you have it and you get your backend to integrate with that service, you start getting notifications. On getting a notification of something changing, it's totally left to the developer's code or algorithm to decide what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. You can help users understand that there is a problem. They might have missed the Google Play mail, but they open your app and they realize that, hey, something is wrong, I need to fix this quickly. Those sort of messaging, those sort of things can all be done from your app. Now, when you're reducing involuntary churn, so let me talk about how we can reduce involuntary churn. Now, there is this feature that I talked about called grace period. Now, like I told you, in case of a failure, Google will retry, notify the user, and try to get the user to fix the payment. If it is a problem with what the user has given, the user needs to fix it. If it is just an outage on the bank side or things like that, one of the retries will succeed and the payment will continue. But grace period allows you to extend this window up to 30 days. From that 24, you can actually extend it up to 30 days. Now, without grace period, it only goes for 24 hours and then it'll like cancel the subscription. So you are actually extending the user's ability or giving user more time to kind of fix the problem. Say if 24 hours might be too short for somebody to come, say they might be traveling, for instance, and their payment failed. They just don't have access to a computer, a secure computer from which they can change their payment details. That could be a reason. So you want to give them a little more time. Grace period is the way you do that. And if the payment works during grace period, the subscription is continued. But the user actually retains access to the content during the grace period. So if you're given 30 days and the user is not updating for 30 days and then canceling the subscription, you literally gave 30 days of content extra for the user. And this is a number that you can actually decide. There are multiple options there. You can decide different grace period amounts, and then based on your business, you can actually decide how you want to go about doing it. So grace period, you are giving Google more time to retry and figure it out, but with access to the content. Now, account hold is a different method. It's very similar to grace period. You keep trying for 30 days before the subscription gets cancelled. Google will keep trying when you're in account hold, but the user loses access to the payment, loses access to the content till the problem is fixed. So it's basically like putting your account onto a suspended status. And when the payment gets fixed, the subscription is set right away. The user is automatically given access to that. And with this can be used with or without grace period. So account hold can be something that you want to use in combination with grace period or without grace period. Now, the reason why these two things are slightly different and a lot of people think, oh, account hold then makes more sense because I'm stopping the user from getting something, which gives them an incentive to correct it and all that. But grace period is as easy as ticking a or selecting a checkbox in Google Play, and that's all you got to do. There's no code required for it. Whereas in account hold, there is a little bit of developer effort required because you want to tell the user that they are in a suspended status. You want to communicate that information to the user, and you also want to help the user come back from there. So those there is a little more developer effort here. So that is the trade-off that you have between these two methods. But both are extremely effective on retaining users who might have a payment, might have not realized that their payment model has expired or payment method has expired, or they're having a temporary problem with their accounts and things like that. So you want to keep retaining your users, and this is one place, two features that you want to kind of decide how to use.
One quick question, like when we have the account hold along with the grace period, whether it will go up to 60 days, you mean, like after the grace period the account hold start?
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the grace period, the account hold starts off.
Okay. That gives
like a combination. We don't really recommend you to like just use it just like that. It is basically to allow the user to go into one or the other state and then continue with it.
Okay.
So most businesses give a small amount of grace period for avoiding situation where the system basically has to retry a few more times and the user will fix it. Then it goes into the account hold state where the user loses something, they still can fix it, and then only they expire it out.
Okay.
So this helps give user multiple chances, and it does not like one fine morning things turn off. Instead, it actually the service or rather the experience degrades much more smoothly.
So during the grace period, is it something like we have that is a limited edition access or something of that sort? Or?
No. Grace period means your SKU is completely active. The user has X number of days, which is whatever you are giving, has X number of days to fix the payment. You are not getting the payment for that.
Okay.
So that's as easy as giving like checking a text. Ticking a checkbox and giving the number of grace period days that you want to give. Okay. So that's like very easy to do. It can be enabled at a SKU level, and you can get it. Account hold usually happens at the account level. And there is a little more work that requires to be done here.
So then there is one question from Sridhi. What is the deadline to support account hold?
What is the deadline to support account hold? I do not know the date exactly. No, I have to check and get back. I don't know that off my head.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Let me just continue. There are a few more slides that I want to kind of run through and show a few more features that might be useful. There are more questions. I can take it as we go.
Yeah, sure.
So next is how we can reduce voluntary churn. Voluntary churn is when a user has actually made a decision to not continue the subscription, and that's the churn that you want to avoid. So you want to kind of measure the activity churn. Okay, one of the things about voluntary churn is that voluntary churn is a behavior that you want to measure about your user. Now, you really want to track that early days of usage of a user, because that's when the user is most enthusiastic about your product. They really want to use it. Their need is very pronounced. And that is when you need to collect the analytics and start understanding where the user is dropping off, where the user is actually feeling not very happy with your service, or where the user is feeling confused. What are the areas you want to improve? So keep track of the early days of your user very clearly. Keep the user engaged. It could be by giving him offers. It could be by providing tooltips. It could be by giving more features, things like that. Keep the user engaged with your application and service, and make it very clear that in the early days of your service is considered valuable by the user, because that early impression that the user sees value from your app or game will definitely make the impression that they will continue or not. If they have a few bad experience in the initial few runs of your application, then most likely they will discard the app and go or cancel the subscription. Now, when you see activity reducing, that's when you want to intervene and start doing something which will bring the user back. You will start seeing that, say, if the first, say, assume a game. The user downloads a game, plays it for an hour the first day. Second day, he plays it for, like, say, 55 minutes, something more than 50 minutes for the first 4 days. And then you start seeing that tapering down to 30 minutes, and it again goes further down. So when you see that downward trend very quickly, it's like that slippery slope of going down in terms of user. That is when you want to engage the user. You want to kind of do something which will actually bring the user back and improve the activity over a period of time. And that's when users don't churn. So if the user activity reduces to like really small day numbers, like from that 60 minutes a day to like it reduces to a few minutes a day, maybe in a period of time that when they see that they only play it a few minutes a day, they might just cancel the subscription. You don't want that churn. So that's where you want to kind of really re-engage the user back again. Users are usually impulsive at beginning. So that's why a lot of subscriptions and things like that happen very quickly initially as people see. But then you got to continuously provide value and continuously provide excitement for the user to continue the subscription. So it's a bit of work, but you really can, by looking at some of these things like early activity usage, keeping them engaged, making the service more valuable in the initial days, or pronounce that value being very pronounced in the initial days, things like that will help your users come back and continue the subscription and reduce the activity churn. Now, before they cancel, there are few things that you can do. One is maybe offer a free tier. Or offer a free tier in a case that the user hasn't engaged enough with your app. So you see that the app was installed and the user has come in, they might have just explored for a few minutes and then they left it. So that's when you might want to offer a tier. Or having issues. So if the user has started your app and the first 10 minutes or first 10 minutes of usage, they had a crash. There are a few crashes, assume. That's a good point to understand the user might have not bring together a great experience for him. User is not seeing a great experience for themselves. So then they might just go ahead and cancel it. So that is where you might want to give them a free tier or a trial offer for a certain amount of days. And then the user feels like, oh, even though the app has a few crashes, they are catering for me better. They understand that and given me a few acts. So let me keep it for some more time. So you keep the engagement going like that. You can use deferred billing, which is an option where you can actually defer it from a day to a year. So you will still have the subscription. The person has subscribed to your app, but you're saying that, oh, the next month's bill is deferred by 1 month. I'm giving you 1 month access for free, which means that the next month's billing will happen 1 month from now. And that allows you to defer the billing in such a way that the user continues to have access, but they are charged later. So that also is, there is a feature called as deferred billing, which will allow you to do this. So these are all things that you can give to the user extra to make them feel more happy and comfortable and being taken care of when they have a negative experience on your app or when they're not engaging enough with your app. The other option is that you should always provide options to upgrade and downgrade plans. So if you have something like standard, premium plus, 3 tiers of access in your app, then you really want to ensure that you give the option of the user to go back and forth between these options. The reason is very simple. Somebody might just go to the most expensive tier. Then they see that, hey, I don't have much value of this. It's very unlikely that they will cancel and take another tier. They will most probably cancel and not come back to the app. There will be a drop off. There will be a funnel of users which will actually you lose by like that. But if they are presented with the option to go to a tier which is less features but less expensive, which might fit them better, they might just opt to do that and continue to pay you a smaller revenue, but still continue to be a paying customer for you. So you want to give that option. In the same way, the user that started with a standard plan, and then they realize that, hey, I need this particular feature which is there only in premium. Instead of actually canceling this and making him pay a premium price all over again, you want to kind of help them upgrade over. And that sort of flexibility is very well appreciated by users. So there is downgrade and upgrade options in play, and that is something that you can use in order to help migrate further, or keep your user, retain your user, not migrate, sorry, retain your user back into your application. Now, account pause is also another option, which is another feature in Google Play, which provides the user the option to pause a subscription. So the user can say that I pause my subscription, which means the access is not continued. Say, assume I'm going abroad for 3 months and I am paying for some service here, service which I like, OTT platform, which can only work in India, or a feature that will only work in India. So I really don't want to pay for 3 months when I'm very sure I'm not going to use it, right? In such scenarios, you can actually pause your service for 3 months and come back and resume the service. That is a feature in Google Play. They don't have to cancel and resubscribe. So when I say cancel and resubscribe, a lot of people don't understand one fact, is that when you cancel and resubscribe, the resubscription is on the current price, not on the price their existing plan was working on. You might have a new plan, and that new plan might be very expensive compared to what they actually, or comparatively expensive than their existing plan. So when you cancel and resubscribe, when you ask users to cancel and resubscribe, it's actually a bigger decision for them to kind of, hey, it's like paying more money and getting the subscription back. So account pause will allow you to kind of, it can be enabled from Google Play, and then user can actually pause at the account level. So all SKUs it can only be done at the account level. So all SKUs will be cancelled. They cannot individually pause certain SKUs. They have to pause it for all this. They lose access to the content, but then when they come back, they can continue on. One thing to note, if you have annual subscriptions or free trials, this does not apply for that. This is only for a shorter duration, and free trial will, even if you pause your account, the free trial will continue to expire, continue to go through. You will continue to have access during that free trial, and at the end of free trial is when the account will be considered to be going into the pause state. So this is another feature that you can use. So a lot of these features are why I said migrating over might help a bit. So that was before the user is canceling, right? So before the user makes that decision. Now assume that the user has decided to cancel and is like, has canceled the subscription. There are things that you can use in order to kind of win back the user. One is a cancellation survey. So you can actually run a cancellation survey. You can get the cancellation survey data, understand why majority of your users are actually canceling. Many a times it could be because the cost is very high and you don't have data. People are not complaining on your Play Store, but they're canceling because of that. It's a good data point for you to kind of change the cancellation. So you can actually run a cancellation survey, and there's a feature there is a API, or rather a feature in Play, which allows you to run a cancellation survey and then get data from there. And you can fix and identify the particular case that is causing it, and you can go and fix that problem. Second one is offer deferred billing. So when the user cancels, you can say that, hey, I can charge you later, but why don't you continue using the service? So you can offer deferred billing, which is an incentive for the user to kind of come back. Then you can communicate value. So when I say cancel the subscription, you got to remember this. Cancellation is different from expiry. So deferred billing is before when the user cancels to the point the subscription expires, there might be time. That is when you can use all these techniques to kind of win the user back. So you can offer deferred billing, or you can communicate features that the user has never used, and then maybe uncancel the subscription by using a subscription restore option. So user might not have seen a particular section where there's like, say, a new level in the game, or a lot of new movies in an OTT platform, or a lot of new features. The user might not have actually seen that feature. That is something you can call out and say, hey, you seem to have missed this. Do you want to continue a subscription and explore this? There are a lot of people actually come back to that. So that's where the subscription restore feature, that's actually a feature in Play, that comes into picture. So you want to kind of use that and get your users back to becoming a paid user. Once the subscription is over, the user canceled it and the subscription has expired, then there's a resubscribe flow that you can do, which is also a much more faster way by which a user can actually come back to the service. So you can trigger a resubscription flow to the user, prompt the user to resubscribe. There are multiple ways in which, and real-time developer notification. Use that tool to ensure that you understand the changes between this. You know that the user has canceled. You know when they are going into like an account hold, or they are going into a grace period, or when they are actually expiring, their subscription is expiring. All that you can actually react to it by getting the state changes to your system, and then you can decide how you want to entice your user to come back to your system. So this is definitely a set of tools that you have to use together. It's not just one technique. You have to use these multiple techniques to actually get the user back. Now, last thing I want to touch upon is promo code. Promo codes are like these one-time codes that you can generate. There are two types of promo codes right now. One is this one-time, like a one-time to one person sort of code, or you also can create codes which is like one code that many people can use. So both are there. It is super simple to use. Promo codes can actually give free trials for subscriptions, or but not free subscriptions. It only can give you trials. In subscription world, it can be giving trials, and in the one-time world, it is can give the product for free, or the SKU for free. You cannot apply a percentage based on a promotion code. It's not like a coupon. You are actually giving a free trial, or you're actually giving a full one-time product completely free. That's how it is. And you can decide how long the promotion is run and how many codes you need to create, and a lot of those things can actually be decided by you. So these are some of the ways in which you can use and and kind of take a look at how your existing subscription flows are working, and then make sure that things are optimized to retain your user, and at the same time the user also sees a lot of value in your service. Like I said earlier, the takeaway is there are multiple products that you have to decide a particular type of product for your service and what works for you. Subscription, rewarded, one time, decide on that. Then based on that, analyze the user, keep track of the churn, understand how the churn activity is managed using your analytics, and keeping track of user very regularly. When you see that there's certain demography of users or certain segment of users are actually tapering off in usage, you want to kind of retain them back by giving more re-engagement opportunities. When a user has a voluntary subscription, there are certain products that we've talked about which you can use. Then there is involuntary subscription. There are certain things that you can use. There is real-time developer notification, which allows you to kind of ensure that you understand the changes in state rather than guessing it. So you can react better and be more personalized in how your system reacts to individuals based on different parameters, and ensure that your user retains a subscription as long as they need. So I hope this gives you a gist of how you might be able to kind of improve some of these things. And if there are questions, or if there are more things that you want to understand about a particular feature, I'm more than happy to help with that. That's about it from me today. Beyond this, like always, beyond this session, if there are questions that pop to your mind, please feel free to ping me on Twitter. And that's a place that I will actually respond really fast. LinkedIn, I only check a very limited number of times a month. I don't track that. A lot of people ping me there, but unfortunately, I'm not too fond of social, so I limit my time on that. But Twitter, yes, I will react. If you give me something, I'll quickly react to it. Yeah, that's it from me.
Okay.
Okay. Amrit, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, my question is, if I already have an app in Play Store and I have been this subscription, if in some case my app has been rejected from the Play Store, is it affect my subscription plans, or
So
this payment
rejected.
or the subscribers?
Okay, what rejected means that you've submitted a new build, and the review team has felt that it does not comply with all policies. So you need to resubmit a new build. So your existing users will continue to use it. So there are different states in which your app can be. One is rejected, one is suspended, the other one is terminated. Now, a rejected is basically a temporary problem that you can fix for that particular build you want to fix. Suspended is for your entire app where you cannot acquire new users because Play Store will not surface up your app. Your existing users will still continue to use your app. A terminated is when you cannot access your account and change anything and republish or do anything else. That usually happens when there is multiple strikes of play policy, and you're violating it more than often. And it's not very common that that happens. But still, that if there are lots of violations that you happen, yes, people get terminated, accounts get terminated. When accounts get terminated, yes, it does affect your subscription, because no new user can actually, or existing users cannot do anything with that. But like pay for the event and things like that. But if it is just rejected, that does not have an impact. Rejected is basically a temporary state where they say the build that you submitted or the current version that you've submitted has some problems, fix it and reapply back. I mean, publish it back. That is basically where the rejected state is. I hope that makes it clear.
Yeah. There are some other questions that is there a Firebase compatible example for checking the order validity in server?
You can do it with Firebase. But why do you want to use Firebase? Because it's just a server. I mean, like if you're like there is an API for that and an endpoint for that. So once you get an order or you get a purchase token, you can check that validity or at Google Play side using that. So I don't know if you can use Firebase, but I don't see a absolute need to do that. Uh, I don't know an example. I don't have an example with Firebase in there. There might be something on the internet. I haven't searched for this particularly.
Okay. But another question is regarding the API limit. There is a lot of confusion on implementation. Please provide an example with use case on what we call, on what frequency, etc.
Which API are we talking about? The voided purchase API? Uh, can if it okay? Let me answer that with uh, I if it's a voided purchases API, there is a limit that is actually specified on the developer page. You basically will have to take that and then run a batch process, which sends more than or tries to get all the voided purchases from the server. And say if it's like 10, you really need to take 24 hours and divide it by 10 and then call it only that 10 times. So you basically the reason why we say that limit has to be implemented is because you really want to ensure that you're calling it evenly throughout the day and not having this large chunk towards one time, one large period in towards the tail end of the day where you're not checking at all. So that's why the implementation requires you to kind of keep towards the API limit.
So Jiku is here. Let me add him to the stream. Jiku, you have a couple of questions to ask, right?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi. So I'm not sure. I had sent this question a bit ahead. Deepu, did you ask it, or should I?
No, no,
I don't know.
I didn't ask him.
Oh, okay,
the 30
okay. Okay, so I'm sorry that I couldn't actually get into the call before. So if in case you mentioned this, I'm so sorry about it. You can actually
No,
skip
go
it.
ahead, please.
Yeah, so this is my question. So imagine I have an application in Google Play Store and as well as in iOS App Store. Okay.
Mhm.
And I have a specific service for which I would like to provide a subscription for the people who are actually using it.
Okay.
And this subscription, maybe it's for, let's say, $10 per month. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now I have the same login for iOS as well as for the Play Store.
Okay.
And if I am taking the subscription of this specific service through Play Store or through iOS App Store, will I be able to actually unlock the features in for the users or in the Android Play Store? Is my question
You
clear?
can actually do it from your backend. You cannot really do it client side alone. We
No,
don't
no, no.
have.
I'm going to do it through the backend, but is this a violation of policy? Because I'll tell you why.
I believe
Uh,
that there is no product like that at the moment which goes cross-platform. Uh, that is my
have you
understanding.
have you played Elevate?
Not.
Okay, so it's basically okay. Yeah. So, okay. I was just thinking, okay, let me actually conjure up an example. Imagine there is a specific game. Let's say it's a tic-tac-toe game. And that game has for some reason, it has a mode wherein there's a paid mode for it. And somebody is paying $1 for it. And I have this same game in iOS and also in Android. For that $1, I paid $1 for that game. For a user paid $1 for that game in iOS, which unlocked all the features, maybe a new theme and so on and so forth. And when he used the same login in Android Play Store, I'm going to actually unlock because I can find that the specific user has already paid for this.
Yeah,
But
I mean that's
Google
totally
is
wrong. That is
is it
totally
okay?
wrong. I don't think we don't control how you decide who to get, who you need to give access to.
Okay, the reason why I was actually saying this is because recently, I think one less than that Google is tightening the 30% commission, which will affect all app developers equally in India.
Yeah.
So I think this is a potential concern wherein they're actually going to bring in this commission thing
I
quite
think
soon.
3 days before it was.
So that does not mean that, see, it is your service. It's only when there is a payment done on the platform is when the commission happens. If the payment is not done on the platform, I don't believe. Say there are use cases which I can very clearly call out where the user is paying on the web platform and then coming back and accessing the service on the device. So I don't see that being something where Google will request for. Google will force you to pay for the device and things like that. No.
Okay. That's great. That's great. Thanks for confirming. I might have read the article wrong. Thanks.
And also, Jiku, like as per my knowledge, like that 30% commission, it has been pushed to 2022, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
they are actually.
yeah.
But recently, I happened to read another one saying that they are actually trying to tighten this because Apple cannot do this. For example, if I am actually doing a purchase in the web platform and then unlocking something in their iOS platform, it will not work. It is a huge violation. They will not let it happen. For example, there are a few exceptions to this. For example, Kindle is an exception, and Netflix is an exception, and a few others are exceptions. But that was the reason for the recent problem that actually happened with the game Fortnite. Maybe you have followed the thing.
Yeah.
So the same thing Google is trying is what I read today. Maybe I'm completely wrong
My
about it.
understanding is that it is not the case, but
Okay,
yeah,
that's nice.
you
That's
might want
nice.
to keep a tab on the developer policies. One of the things with developer policy that I just want to call out is it's a legal document, so a lot of us cannot interpret that.
Yeah.
Cannot interpret a legal document for you. The thing is, you need to make a judgment. People read it. A lot of the articles might not be accurate about it because people are giving you their interpretation of what that document is, not necessarily what is there. So
Yeah.
if there's a gray area like that which you really want to confirm, you can always reach out to a policy support and they will be able to help you out with that.
Okay, awesome. No problem. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, Lijo, any other questions that you have? I think that's all for now. Jiku, is there any more questions from your end?
No issues. Nothing. I'm just happy that I'm actually quite relieved that this is not going. This is not going to be.
You really need to ask me again. Like I've given you what I understand it to be.
No. I'm going to take your word as from. No. I'm going to actually quote you that Google mentioned this, and I'm
No,
going to apply this.
I cannot say that. I will not be able to. I mean, that will not be valid because see, I can only tell you what I have read and I've understood, but I don't think that will be a valid interpretation of it.
Don't worry,
If there's
don't worry,
confusion,
don't worry.
please do check up again.
Yeah,
Just to be.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't worry, I'll not.
I just don't want people to feel that way. I want to be very clear that I call all the disclaimers out.
Yeah, okay, no problem. So everybody, listen. This is not Google speaking. This is Amrit Sanjeev.
Yeah, this is me. Yes, this is
Yeah,
my that I share with you
that's
folks.
nice. That's nice. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Amrit. So I think like right now our industry or Indian consumers are becoming matured enough so that we can target on more on subscription revenue for apps, right?
Yes, I believe there is a certain segment which is definitely going to benefit because of this. A lot of the business models are not sustainable without subscriptions. One, secondly, all these tools put together will allow you to kind of keep retaining the user and helping the user also see value in your proposition. So that's where the whole thing comes about to be more effective.
Okay, and as of now, regarding the mobile app industry, other than that, generally, the honeymoon period of mobile apps is over. The people used to say like that because right now people
Sure,
do not
but
people do not keep an app installed which he doesn't use. For the initially there was a period where they will go and download, keep hundreds of apps in their mobile, but right now it is just like only a few apps will be there in people's mobile, right? So
yeah, that's just people maturing. India still has a higher number of apps compared to other regions, I feel. The number of apps that a user keeps on the device is much higher. Third-party apps that they keep on the device is slightly higher compared to other regions as per stats that I have seen. But yes, people are more mature about how they're using devices and they are not really keeping a lot of things that they don't need. One is the concern on disk space. The second is concern on battery life. Uh, uh, not of that much of a concern in our region, but still battery is of a big concern. A lot of people also feel the annoyance of notifications coming in too often and things like that to be a reason why they take off a lot of applications. So yeah, combine all of that together. Yes, people maybe like a few years back to now, yes, there is less number of there could be less number of apps that people are keeping.
okay, and whenever in the normal subscription model, whenever we go, like what is considered as an okay churn rate? Like when you look at like I'm doing okay,
So
like
as
is
long as the user base is growing, that is the whole point because each like I said, even with that small number, right, like the 16
yeah.
month with 100 users coming in, 1% churn. So it also depends on how steep your curve is to start with. Say you are acquiring 10,000 users a day, then you with a 1% churn, you're not going to really feel much of a difference. But if you're using this 10 users a day, 1% churn makes a lot of difference for you. So that sort of a thing actually happens. The churn rate should be kept to as minimal as possible. It'll never be zero. People will try out and then they will leave. That's all always going to be there. But if you have a continuous growth of your user base, that's when the revenue pie will also kind of continuously grow. If it starts flattens out, your revenue keeps flattening out. So you can, if you're a company that makes like 10,000 transactions a month, say a month, I'm just hypothetically saying that could be really small, but then 10,000 transactions a month. If your user base is not growing and user base is constantly in a rate that you're growing at 3% and you're churning at 3%, then what will happen is your revenue is going to be 10 for whatever 10,000 transactions you're getting, or for the 10,000 users, or because the number of users will actually stagnate. And if all of them are paying monthly, if they're stagnant, no matter how many users come and you lose that many users, your revenue is standard. To get more users, you continuously pay. So your revenue and it's hit from both two ends. One is that you are getting people to pay, so you're acquiring to pay, so to acquire you're paying for users, and they are not converting to continuous revenue. Again, most businesses customer acquisition cost is much higher than one-time subscription. So if your customer acquisition cost is $6, you're not really charging them $6 the first month. You're basically maybe charging them $1 a month. So at the end of 6 months is when you're really recovered your customer acquisition cost. And 7 months is where you're actually literally getting your money back in that case. And if your user is churning out much faster, you start bleeding money much before, because they've you've acquired them at $6. They came in, they paid for 1 month, and they left. Means you've lost $5 straight off. Then acquiring that user all over again is not going to be a $6 effort. It's going to be a much higher number effort. So getting a user who's churned off, bringing a churned off user back again is a much more expensive process. And that's why we're all these products that like many of the products that I talked about today, kind of try to bring the user back before they churn out. And by giving them value and letting the developer understand this, and that's when you really can give both value for yourself and for the user.
Okay. I think that's all for today. The time is up, 9:50. So, Amrit, I expect like you coming up with another interesting session like this in future, like in another.
Do that with a gap. People will get bored of me if I do this too often.
No. It is just like I always want to have a more general talk, but whenever you are getting to the details, to specific talks, there are more and more sessions required. Like you can come up with some specific topics like this that would be really useful and beneficial, like ready to use for them in those people who are having their apps in App Store and they are having a subscription model enabled. This would be really beneficial for them to apply.
Sure, definitely. I mean, like as I see a lot of this content that are like the type that you talk about, we really need to do a lot of research and a lot of work to kind of get that. So it doesn't come very often, but whenever it's there, I'm definitely going to keep you guys posted about it.
Okay, thank you, Amrit.
Okay, thanks, sir.
See you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks, Jacob. Thank you, Lijo. Yeah.
Thank you.